New CFO fired me after 18 years claiming my methods were outdated. Then he panicked when he saw the profits declining. The day everything changed began like any other. I had been working at Crestwood Enterprises for 18 years, building my career from an entry-level accountant to senior financial analyst. 18 years of pouring my heart and soul into the company, watching it grow, adapting to every challenge that came our way. The walls of my office held countless memories, late nights poring over ledgers, mentoring young accountants, and celebrating record-breaking quarters. It was more than just a job, it was a second home where I'd invested nearly 2 decades of my life. My methods, as they called them, weren't fancy or revolutionary. They were built on fundamentals, personal relationships with clients, meticulous attention to detail, and a deep understanding of how numbers told stories beyond their face value. These principles guided me through economic downturns, technological shifts, and industry changes. While others chased quick fixes and trendy solutions, I stuck to what worked, building trust, maintaining consistency, and making decisions based on comprehensive data rather than fleeting trends. The morning the new CFO arrived, I could feel the air change in the building. Michael Thompson strode through the doors with an entourage of consultants, his polished shoes clicking against the marble floor like a countdown timer. At 42, he was young for such a high-ranking position, armed with an MBA from a prestigious university and experience from cutting-edge tech companies. His reputation preceded him, a corporate turnaround specialist known for aggressive restructuring and modernization initiatives. During his first week, Michael conducted what he called efficiency audits, though we all knew they were judgment sessions. He moved through departments like a storm, questioning established procedures and dismissing long-standing practices as antiquated. When he reached finance, he spent hours reviewing our workflows, frowning at our paper-based documentation system and shaking his head at our client visitation schedule. His presence filled the room with an uncomfortable energy, making even the most confident team members doubt their methods. The meeting that would change everything took place exactly 3 weeks after Michael's arrival. He summoned me to the executive boardroom, a space I'd only entered during annual reviews or major company announcements. As I walked in, I noticed the stark contrast between the sterile glass-walled room and my warm book-lined office. Michael sat at the head of the table, flanked by 2 members of his consulting team, their laptops open and ready to document my professional execution. "Thank you for coming," Michael began without preamble, his tone polite but distant. "After thorough analysis of our operations, I've determined that your methods, while perhaps effective in the past, are no longer aligned with modern business practices." He gestured to a presentation on the screen behind him, filled with charts and graphs that supposedly proved his point. "Your reliance on manual processes, face-to-face client meetings, and traditional accounting methods is holding us back from achieving optimal efficiency." I listened carefully, noting how his words reduced 18 years of dedicated service to mere methods. Each point he made felt like a dismissal of not just my work, but the very foundation upon which Crestwood's financial stability had been built. When I tried to explain the value of personal relationships in maintaining client loyalty, he interrupted with statistics about digital communication platforms. When I mentioned the importance of cross-referencing physical documents, he cited cloud computing solutions. The final blow came when he presented his plan to replace my position with a more dynamic, tech-savvy leader who can propel us into the future. The irony wasn't lost on me, being fired for being too old-fashioned by someone half my age, whose entire strategy seemed based on buzzwords and theoretical models rather than practical experience. As I gathered my belongings later that afternoon, I couldn't help but notice the nervous glances from colleagues who had worked alongside me for years. None of them spoke up, caught between loyalty to a respected veteran and fear of the new regime. In the days following my departure, I maintained a routine of early morning walks through the park near my home. The crisp autumn air helped clear my mind, though it did little to ease the ache of sudden unemployment. Each step carried the weight of questions about my worth and relevance in an industry that seemed determined to leave its veterans behind. The familiar faces I passed each morning became unwitting witnesses to my internal struggle. The young professionals rushing to work reminded me of Michael's youth and confidence, while the older couples sitting on benches evoked memories of promises made to myself about career longevity. At home, the silence grew louder with each passing day. My workspace, once alive with the hum of activity and ringing phones, now stood frozen in time, papers neatly stacked, pens aligned perfectly, and the calendar still showing the date of my termination. I found myself lingering there, staring at the empty chair where I used to sit, trying to reconcile the person I was with the one I'd become overnight. Nights were the hardest, when sleep eluded me and thoughts of what-if scenarios played on endless repeat in my mind. The emotional toll manifested in unexpected ways. Simple tasks felt overwhelming, conversations with friends turned into therapy sessions, and even grocery shopping became a reminder of how drastically my daily rhythm had changed. I began questioning not just my professional capabilities, but my entire identity. Was I defined by my job? Had 18 years of dedication amounted to nothing more than outdated practices? The uncertainty about whether I could adapt to a new role, or even if I wanted to, gnawed at me constantly. Yet amidst this turmoil, something remarkable happened. Old clients started reaching out, first one, then another, until my phone became a lifeline to the world I thought I'd lost. They weren't calling to offer sympathy, they wanted advice, guidance, and sometimes just to check in. Their calls revealed a truth Michael hadn't considered. While he had dismissed my methods as outdated, my clients valued the personal touch, the deep understanding of their businesses, and the reliability that came from years of consistent service. Each conversation became a small victory, a reminder that my approach wasn't just about numbers, it was about people, relationships, and trust built over time. As weeks turned into months, these connections evolved into something unexpected. Several clients suggested freelance consulting opportunities, while others shared concerns about how Michael's changes were affecting their accounts. Their feedback painted a picture of growing discontent within Crestwood's client base, automated responses replacing personal communication, standardized solutions ignoring individual needs, and a general feeling of disconnect from the company they had trusted for years. What started as casual check-ins transformed into a network of concerned voices, each adding pieces to a puzzle that spelled trouble for Crestwood's future. Meanwhile, inside Crestwood Enterprises, Michael's grand vision was unfolding with military precision. Within weeks of my departure, the finance department underwent a complete transformation. Traditional filing cabinets disappeared, replaced by sleek digital storage systems that promised unparalleled efficiency. The client relationship model shifted dramatically. Face-to-face meetings became video conferences, personalized service gave way to standardized protocols, and decision-making processes were streamlined through algorithmic analysis tools that Michael swore by. These changes, however, didn't sit well with everyone. Long-time employees struggled to adapt to the new systems, particularly those who had relied on established workflows for years. The IT department became overwhelmed with support requests as staff grappled with complex software interfaces. Client managers found themselves spending more time troubleshooting technical issues than actually managing accounts. The atmosphere in the office shifted from collaborative to anxious, with team members hesitant to voice concerns about the rapid changes sweeping through their department. Michael's consultants pushed forward relentlessly, implementing cost-cutting measures that initially seemed promising. They reduced travel budgets, eliminated certain client perks, and centralized decision-making processes. On paper, these moves appeared brilliant, expenses decreased immediately, and quarterly reports showed improved operational efficiency metrics. Yet beneath these surface-level improvements, subtle cracks began to form in Crestwood's foundation. Experienced staff members started leaving, unable to adapt to the new culture, taking with them years of institutional knowledge and client relationships. The most significant impact emerged in client retention rates. While Michael celebrated the initial savings from reduced travel and entertainment expenses, he failed to notice how these changes affected client satisfaction. Long-standing customers reported feeling neglected, their complex needs oversimplified by automated systems that couldn't capture nuances. Mid-sized accounts, traditionally nurtured through personal attention, began slipping away to competitors who offered more tailored service. Even large corporate clients, accustomed to dedicated account management, expressed dissatisfaction with the impersonal nature of their interactions. Internal reports started showing worrying trends. Account receivables increased as clients delayed payments, citing service quality issues. New business acquisitions slowed dramatically, as Michael's team focused on optimizing existing accounts rather than cultivating new relationships. The finance department's productivity metrics looked impressive, but deeper analysis revealed growing backlogs in critical areas like credit management and risk assessment. These warning signs, buried beneath layers of positive efficiency reports, painted a troubling picture of a company losing touch with its core values and customer base. 6 months after my departure, the first real crisis hit Crestwood Enterprises. A major manufacturing client, one of our oldest and most reliable accounts, suddenly terminated their contract. This wasn't just any client, they represented 15% of Crestwood's annual revenue. Their decisions sent shockwaves through the company, triggering a cascade of consequences that nobody had anticipated. Other long-term clients began re-evaluating their relationships with Crestwood, and several mid-sized accounts followed suit, citing similar concerns about deteriorating service quality and lack of personal attention. Michael's reaction was immediate and telling. Where he had once confidently dismissed traditional methods as outdated, he now scrambled to understand what was going wrong. The finance department became a war room, with emergency meetings scheduled daily as they tried to stem the tide of departing clients. Consultants who had previously championed digital transformation found themselves defending choices that now seemed questionable. The very systems designed to improve efficiency became bottlenecks as panicked staff attempted to address mounting client complaints through channels that lacked human touch and flexibility. What struck me most was how quickly the company culture changed. Employees who had once kept silent about their reservations now openly questioned the direction of the company. Managers found themselves torn between maintaining loyalty to Michael's vision and addressing genuine client concerns. The atmosphere of confidence that had characterized Michael's early days at Crestwood transformed into one of anxiety and uncertainty. Even the board of directors, initially impressed by Michael's modern approach, began demanding explanations for the alarming rate of client attrition. As news of Crestwood's struggles spread through professional networks, I received an increasing number of calls from former colleagues seeking advice. They described a company caught in a downward spiral, automated systems failing to address complex client needs, experienced staff leaving in droves, and new hires struggling to maintain relationships with confused customers. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The very efficiencies Michael had implemented were now working against the company's fundamental strengths. What had once been a stable, relationship-driven organization was becoming increasingly transactional, losing the personal connections that had defined its success for decades. The situation worsened as quarterly financial reports painted an increasingly bleak picture. Revenue projections missed targets by widening margins, and profit margins shrank alarmingly. Clients who had stayed loyal through previous leadership changes and market fluctuations were now actively seeking alternatives. Competitors, many of whom had learned from Crestwood's traditional approach to client management, were more than happy to welcome disgruntled accounts with open arms and personalized service packages. Christmas approached, bringing with it a peculiar sort of clarity. Sitting in my home office, surrounded by years of accumulated knowledge and experience, I realized that Crestwood's challenges presented an unexpected opportunity. The numerous client inquiries I'd received since my departure weren't just expressions of loyalty, they were invitations to rethink my professional path. Each conversation had revealed gaps in the market that my approach could uniquely fill, especially in an era where personal connection seemed increasingly rare. Through careful networking and strategic planning, I began assembling resources for what would become my own consulting practice. Former colleagues, disillusioned by Crestwood's current direction, offered valuable insights about emerging needs in the industry. Clients who had appreciated my traditional methods provided letters of recommendation and promised initial contracts. Even some of Michael's former consultants, witnessing the unintended consequences of their strategies, reached out with offers of collaboration. The consulting firm I envisioned wouldn't be a direct competitor to Crestwood. Instead, it would focus on bridging the gap between modern efficiency and timeless relationship management. Technology would play a crucial role, but as a tool to enhance personal connections rather than replace them. My years of experience taught me that numbers alone couldn't tell a complete story. Context, history, and human intuition were equally vital components of successful financial management. This hybrid approach, combining the best of both worlds, seemed perfectly positioned to address the very challenges Crestwood now faced. As I developed my business plan, I couldn't help but reflect on how circumstances had aligned so unexpectedly. The same qualities Michael had dismissed as outdated were now precisely what clients desperately needed. The industry's rush toward automation had created a vacuum of personal service that my proposed firm could naturally fill. Every setback I had experienced since my termination now appeared as stepping stones toward a new beginning, where my extensive experience and proven methods could find renewed purpose in helping companies navigate the complex balance between innovation and tradition. With the consulting firm's framework established, I began reaching out to key contacts in the industry, starting with Sarah Chen, a former Crestwood client who had recently expanded her manufacturing business. Our initial meeting, held over coffee at her new facility, revealed just how much demand existed for a different approach to financial management. Sarah confessed that she had retained Crestwood only out of inertia, but recent service lapses had pushed her to consider alternatives. Her enthusiasm for my proposed hybrid model confirmed my belief that there was a viable market for this service. Next, I connected with James Holloway, a technology consultant who had worked with Michael during his Crestwood overhaul. To my surprise, James was eager to collaborate, having witnessed firsthand how pure automation failed to address nuanced client needs. His expertise in integrating human-centric design with digital solutions proved invaluable as we developed our service offerings. Together, we crafted a system that utilized advanced analytics while maintaining personal oversight, creating a truly unique value proposition. The momentum continued as word spread through professional networks. Former Crestwood clients started scheduling consultations, each bringing their own set of challenges and opportunities. Through these discussions, patterns emerged that helped refine our approach. We discovered that businesses weren't rejecting technology outright, they simply needed guidance in implementing it effectively without losing the personal touch. This insight led to the development of customizable modules that allowed clients to maintain their preferred level of personal interaction while benefiting from modern efficiencies. One particularly significant opportunity arose when a medium-sized logistics company approached us, frustrated with their current provider's inability to adapt to their seasonal fluctuations. Their case study became the foundation for our flexible engagement model, demonstrating how traditional relationship management could be enhanced rather than replaced by technology. This success story quickly attracted similar businesses facing comparable challenges, creating a niche market that larger firms struggled to serve effectively. As the consulting practice gained traction, I found myself in the unexpected position of advising some of Crestwood's remaining clients on how to navigate their changing relationship with the company. These conversations often revealed the depth of dissatisfaction that had developed under Michael's leadership. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Here I was, offering solutions to problems that had originated from my own termination. Yet rather than bitterness, I felt a growing sense of purpose in helping these businesses find stability in uncertain times. The consulting firm's growth trajectory exceeded even my most optimistic projections. Within 6 months, we had established partnerships with multiple former Crestwood clients, each bringing their own network of contacts and opportunities. These relationships formed the backbone of our expanding operation, creating a web of interconnected businesses that benefited from our hybrid approach. The success stories began stacking up. A regional distributor saved from financial distress through personalized cash flow management combined with automated tracking systems, a family-owned construction company successfully navigating generational transition with our guidance, a tech startup finding sustainable growth through our balanced approach to investment and relationship management. Perhaps the most gratifying aspect was watching how our services rippled through the business community. Each satisfied client became an advocate, sharing their positive experiences with peers who faced similar challenges. This organic growth validated our approach and demonstrated the enduring value of combining traditional wisdom with modern tools. The consulting firm had evolved from a personal response to professional adversity into a movement that challenged conventional thinking about financial management in the digital age. Observing Crestwood's ongoing struggles from this new vantage point offered valuable perspective. Their declining performance wasn't just a cautionary tale about rejecting proven methods, it highlighted the critical need for balance in business evolution. Success couldn't be measured solely by efficiency metrics or technological adoption rates. True progress required maintaining core values while embracing necessary change. This realization shaped our consulting philosophy, emphasizing the importance of preserving essential elements while innovating around them. As Christmas lights twinkled in the distance and snow began dusting the city streets, I reflected on how far we had come in such a short time. The consulting firm had transformed from a concept born of necessity into a thriving enterprise that addressed genuine market needs. Yet the journey was far from over. Each new client brought fresh challenges and opportunities for growth. The business landscape continued to evolve, presenting constant tests of our ability to adapt while staying true to our founding principles. As winter deepened, Crestwood Enterprises found itself at a crossroads. The board of directors convened an emergency meeting just days before Christmas, their usual air of confidence replaced by palpable tension. Michael sat at the head of the table, his once unshakable demeanor visibly shaken as he presented yet another bleak quarterly report. Revenue had plummeted further, key clients were defecting at an alarming rate, and internal morale was at an all-time low. For the first time since his arrival, Michael didn't have answers, only questions. The board's frustration boiled over during the meeting. "You told us your methods would revolutionize this company," one director said sharply, slamming a folder onto the table. Instead, we're hemorrhaging clients and watching decades of goodwill evaporate. Another chimed in, pointing out that many departing clients specifically cited the loss of personalized service, the very thing Michael had dismissed as outdated. The irony hung heavy in the room. The efficiency metrics Michael had championed now seemed hollow without the human element they had sacrificed. But it wasn't just the numbers haunting Michael, it was the faces. Former colleagues who had quietly warned him about alienating loyal clients now avoided eye contact in the hallways. Clients who had trusted Crestwood for years sent terse emails terminating contracts, often mentioning how much they missed the old way of doing business. Even Michael's own team, once eager to implement his vision, now questioned whether they'd been too quick to abandon proven practices. Doubt crept into every corner of the organization, eroding trust and leaving behind uncertainty. Meanwhile, my consulting firm continued to gain momentum, though not without its own challenges. As word spread about our success helping former Crestwood clients navigate their transition, demand surged beyond what I had anticipated. Managing growth while maintaining the personal touch that defined our approach became increasingly difficult. Late nights turned into early mornings, and the line between professional success and personal exhaustion began to blur. Yet with each new client victory, I felt a renewed sense of purpose, a reminder that the methods I had honed over 18 years weren't obsolete, they were timeless. One day, as I reviewed case studies with James Holloway, he leaned back in his chair and said, "You know, Michael might actually reach out soon." His words startled me. "Why do you say that?" I asked, though deep down, I knew he was right. Crestwood's decline showed no signs of slowing, and desperation often forces people to reconsider their choices. James nodded thoughtfully. "He's running out of options. And if he doesn't act soon, Crestwood won't just lose clients, it'll lose its soul." Sure enough, less than a week later, I received an email from Michael himself. The subject line read simply, "Urgent discussion needed." My heart raced as I opened the message. In terse, formal language, Michael requested a meeting to discuss potential collaborative opportunities. He didn't elaborate, but the subtext was clear: Crestwood needed help, and he was willing to swallow his pride to get it. I hesitated before responding. Part of me wanted to decline outright, to let him face the consequences of his decisions without interference. But another part, the part shaped by 18 years of dedication to Crestwood, couldn't ignore the gravity of the situation. This wasn't just about Michael or even me anymore. It was about the hundreds of employees whose livelihoods depended on Crestwood's survival, the countless clients who still valued the company despite its recent missteps, and the legacy of an institution that had once stood as a pillar of reliability in the industry. When we finally met, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. Michael arrived alone, dressed in a suit that looked slightly rumpled, a rarity for someone who prided himself on immaculate appearances. He extended his hand awkwardly, and I shook it, noting the absence of his usual confident swagger. We sat across from each other in a quiet cafe, far removed from the corporate world where our paths had diverged so dramatically. "I'll be honest," Michael began after a long pause. "This isn't easy for me. I never imagined I'd be sitting here asking for your help." His voice carried a vulnerability I hadn't expected. "Crestwood is struggling. No, it's worse than that. It's unraveling. And I don't know how to fix it." For a moment, I let the weight of his admission sink in. Here was the man who had dismissed everything I stood for, now admitting that his approach had failed spectacularly. A part of me wanted to savor the vindication, to remind him of every warning I had given before being fired. But instead, I chose empathy. "Michael," I said gently, "this isn't about me or you. It's about Crestwood, and the people who depend on it. If there's a way to turn things around, I'm willing to listen." Over the next hour, Michael laid bare the extent of Crestwood's troubles. Client retention rates had fallen to historic lows, employee turnover was skyrocketing, and profit margins were razor-thin. He confessed that his attempts to streamline operations had inadvertently created bottlenecks, leaving staff overwhelmed and clients underserved. Worst of all, he admitted that he had underestimated the importance of relationships, not just with clients, but within the company itself. "I thought I could modernize everything," he said, shaking his head. "But I ended up tearing apart the fabric that held Crestwood together." By the end of our conversation, we had outlined a tentative plan. Michael agreed to bring me in as a senior advisor, not as an employee, but as a consultant tasked with restoring balance to Crestwood's operations. The role came with significant autonomy, allowing me to reintroduce elements of the traditional approach while integrating modern tools where appropriate. It was a delicate compromise, one that required both of us to set aside past grievances and focus on the future. Returning to Crestwood felt surreal. Walking through the familiar halls, I noticed subtle changes: new technology stations, reconfigured workspaces, digital displays replacing bulletin boards, but also glaring absences. Many of the faces I had known for years were gone, replaced by younger employees who seemed unsure of their roles. The energy that had once defined the workplace had dimmed, replaced by a pervasive sense of unease. My first task was to rebuild trust, not only with clients but also with the remaining staff. I organized town hall meetings where employees could voice their concerns and share ideas for improvement. To my surprise, many embraced the opportunity, offering insights that highlighted the disconnect between leadership and frontline teams. One accountant tearfully recounted how automated systems had stripped away her ability to provide the thoughtful analysis she once took pride in. A junior manager described feeling isolated after regional offices were consolidated under centralized control. These stories reinforced the need for a balanced approach, one that honored experience while embracing innovation. Client outreach proved equally challenging. Those who had left Crestwood were hesitant to return, wary of falling victim to another round of misguided reforms. For those who remained, skepticism ran high. During one particularly tense meeting, a longtime client bluntly asked, "How do we know this isn't just another Band-Aid solution?" I responded candidly, acknowledging past mistakes and emphasizing our commitment to lasting change. Slowly but surely, these conversations began to thaw the frost that had formed around Crestwood's reputation. Michael, to his credit, played an active role in the turnaround effort. Though initially resistant to relinquishing control, he gradually embraced the idea of collaboration. He attended client meetings, listened to feedback, and worked alongside staff to address pain points. Watching him evolve from a rigid ideologue to a more adaptable leader was both surprising and gratifying. There were moments of friction, of course. Old habits die hard, but his willingness to learn signaled a promising shift. As months passed, small victories began to accumulate. A major client who had terminated their contract returned after seeing tangible improvements in service quality. Employee engagement scores ticked upward, buoyed by initiatives that restored a sense of ownership and purpose. Even financial indicators started showing signs of recovery, though progress remained fragile. Through it all, I reminded myself, and everyone else, that rebuilding trust takes time. Patience, persistence, and humility would be key to ensuring that Crestwood emerged stronger than ever. The journey was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, there was hope. Crestwood's story was no longer one of decline. It was becoming a testament to resilience, adaptation, and the enduring value of human connection in an increasingly automated world. And as I stood in the heart of the company I had once called home, I realized that my own journey had come full circle, not as a victim of change, but as a catalyst for transformation.